Thank you. I live for the applause. Does everybody recognize this photo, where it's taken from? The back of the Steinheim? Yeah, it's a nice shot. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just have some photos and some quotes streaming behind me while I give the presentation. It's going to tie in with what I say, but not as I say it, perhaps. Sure, Matt. Not a problem. Okay. So the first question I have for you, actually I only have one question for you all today, and that is, when you look around Alfred, what is it that you see? What comes into your mind when you think about this area? And we all think different things. Well, actually, you don't have to answer, but thank you. That's my wife, by the way. Okay. So there's a number of things. I know for myself, when I look around Alfred, New York, I see hills, I see trails, I see lakes, I see rivers, I see streams, I see state parks with thousands and thousands of acres. I see opportunities to go downhill skiing, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing. I see opportunities for backpacking, for camping. I see horse trails, I see horse barns, I see equestrian centers. I see all these opportunities to engage the outdoors, and that's kind of what the Wild About Alfred committee is all about. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today, is the Wild About Alfred committee. I want to first start by giving a quick definition of what it is that we try to do, and that is we try to focus on making the most of our unique setting that we have here in a way that allows students, faculty, staff, and community members to explore and experience the natural resources and the activities that we have in this area, to get out, to get healthy, and to be fit. I was just talking to Doug Clark a little bit ago about the Seventh-day Baptists who settled this area, and the line that he saw in verbal lore is that when the Seventh-day Baptists moved to this area, they wanted to find something that was remote. They moved to a place that they thought was where they wanted to be, and then they went 3 or 4 miles further, which is why we're here in Alfred, New York. And we do have a very unique setting. So today I want to do 5 things. I want to address 5 different topics. One is some past attempts for outdoor programming and recreational use of this area. I want to look at the evolution or the progression to the what we have now is the Wild About Alfred Committee. I want to talk about some of our events. I want to talk about events we've done in the past and the ones we have planned for the future. I also want to recognize the forest people, because we have a very symbiotic relationship with that student club, that student organization. And I'm going to bring up probably the Vice President, Eric Teller, at some point to talk about their activities. And then I wanted to spend a little bit of time looking down the road, a brief look down the road as far as where we'd like to see this initiative go. Okay, with that in mind, I'm going to grab my water. And so I went back about 20 years looking at various reports and analysis and task force that tried to look at the resources that we have in the immediate area. Now, some of you here have been here longer than 20 years. Lou Lickman, I saw him here somewhere. And there's several others that have been here for quite a while and probably know of other reports that I'm not going to be able to cite today. But the first one was the Recreational Needs Analysis that was done in 1994. And what they came up with basically three recommendations. One is to hire a full-time recreation and intramural director to convert Davis Gym into a field house, which Davis Gym is still Davis Gym, but we do have a field house on the way. And the third one is my favorite one of all, and that is to start fundraising, because all of our problems can be solved with money. That seemed to be, I wonder how much we paid our consultants to tell us that. Another report that came out about 15 years ago, 10 or 15 years ago, was put together by Daryl Conte. At the time, he was the Associate Dean of Student Affairs, and he looked at some of the, let me get the exact title here. He did an outdoor recreation report, and basically what he did was he benchmarked a number of other schools that had outdoor programs and said we could do something similar here. But there was, beyond that, there was really no formal proposal other than we should try something along these lines. And not a lot happened with that report at that point. There's been things done with Foster Lake, a couple of different reports, one in '93, another one when we acquired Foster Lake property. What year was that? Does anybody know? The MBA students at the time did a report in 2003, so I'm thinking it was around that time. And that's where they came up with 3 recommendations themselves. And those 3 recommendations were to construct a student leadership and recreation center right on Foster Lake, to rehab the campsites that are up there. There actually are campsites up there. They're very rustic. In fact, I saw them about 20 years ago, and they were very rustic then. I haven't seen them since, so I got to imagine they're probably even a little more rustic now. And also to build a ropes course, which I'm sure that Trish and Kathy would be very much in favor of, Trish DeBerlis and Kathy Wifter. So those are some various reports that came forward to say we have these resources, we should do something with them, but nothing really occurred at that time. So we're going to skip ahead to 2009. The Division of Student Affairs put together a rehabbed or revamped or redid the mission statement, and it had 3 parts to it: dedication to diversity, creative connections, and wellness within the wilderness. And we're going to be focusing on that wellness within the wilderness. In the fall of 2010, Kathy commissioned a task force to be chaired by Norm Pollard, Dean Norm Pollard, and then soccer coach Jennifer Anke. Put together the task force, who then received the charge from Kathy, which basically, she asked the question. I'm going to distill this down because it's basically a page-and-a-half charge that I'm going to distill down to one sentence, and that is, how can we make best use of the beautiful natural setting in a way that educates students, help them to make healthier decisions, help them to engage in the outdoors, and to possibly use these resources to attract students, faculty, and staff to Alfred University. The task force convened for that semester, and we broke up into our subcommittees and looked at a number of different things, and we came up with 7 recommendations. And I'm only going to discuss 3 of those recommendations now. Is that George Carlin? Yeah, I figured that would be George. I figured you'd laugh at that one, Greg. The 3 recommendations that came out of that, one was to identify actions we can take to utilize the resources we have immediately to us, like Pine Hill Trails, Foster Lake, the Equestrian Center lands, Phillips Creek, and other state parks, state lands in this area. Number 2 was to promote programs that make use of the unique setting that we are in the school that we have, and also to look for ways that we can link events that are happening off campus, outside of Alfred University, to our school, such as the Wellsville Ridge Walk or whitewater rafting and other events of that nature. The committee consisted mostly of folks from Student Affairs. We had a couple of university relation folks and a few students. Kevin Keefe and Anna Friedel, who were undergraduates at the time, are now graduate students. Mirja, whose last name, can anybody pronounce Mirja's last name? Is that, what? Was that easy? Okay. It didn't seem like it when you look at it with all the consonants there. But a few of those members, well, we put the report, we did all the research, we did all the work in the fall semester. By mid-spring semester, we presented the final report to the university. Now, I was on the one subcommittee that looked at doing a better job of intentionally using things like the Pine Hill Trails. And I was on that subcommittee with, I think, Trish DeBerlis, Julie Overton Healy, and either Kevin and or Anna were on that as well. And it kind of came to us that with Pine Hill Trails right there, that we might want to start something, doing a little more intentional with that. So while we're still in the task force stage, the idea of the Friday night hikes started up. And I don't know if you're familiar with those, but every Friday night we meet at 6 o'clock and we hike the Pine Hill Trails, which is just under 3 miles. And the first year that we started was in January of 2011. In fact, some of the pictures that you see for Friday night hikes, if they're taken at night with snow and snowshoes, it was taken during that first year because we had a lot of snow in the winter of 2011. That was, for me, a good winter. I'm not sure if others would agree or not. What's that? I thought I heard a comment, sorry. So, and what we realized with that little kernel of an idea is that there was quite a bit of interest in that. We'd have anywhere from 5 to 20 students that wanted to go out on a Friday evening in the dark in the winter, strap on snowshoes, and hike 3 miles through the snow. So once we presented our findings, which also included a phased approach to realizing the whole wellness within the wilderness recommendations that we had, was to start with perhaps an all-volunteer committee of individuals that were dedicated to outdoor programming or wellness types of programming. Number two, the second phase would be to hopefully someday hire a part-time coordinator to be a dedicated staff person to coordinating these activities. And of course, where this goes from there is the third phase, which is hopefully someday to have a full-time dedicated director or coordinator for outdoor activities, outdoor leadership type activities. So we presented that report. And from there was a core of us. There was a group of us that wanted to keep the momentum of that report going. We didn't really want it to necessarily sit on a shelf like the reports did 20 years earlier. So we formed this committee to build on that Friday night hike idea, perhaps. And also, I have to admit that since I'm giving this presentation, it's complete revisionist history, probably, because I'm probably making up my own facts, which I tend to do. And if I'm not sure, I tend to hyperbolize. So bear with me. But there's a core from the original task force of Norm Pollard, Trish DeBertolus, Kristen Kovach from the Equestrian Center, Pam Shue, Res Life, Gretchen Loans, who now goes by Gretchen Mayer, our executive chef, Kevin Keefe, and Anna Friedel were in the original task force that then became part of this committee to do something, and we weren't sure exactly what it was going to be. So this committee got together and we decided, well, again, we wanted to come up with an idea that perhaps celebrated this area and the uniqueness of Alfred and this community. And one idea that came forward eventually evolved out of that was the Horse to Holler hike, which happens, no, I guess that was a little while ago. For those of you that don't know, it's a 7-mile hike through the woods around here. You start at the Equestrian Center. There's the horse, and then we end up Pollywog Holler, and there's the holler. So it's the Horse to Holler hike. And what it does is it crosses through the Equestrian Center, Alfred University property, through and around Foster Lake, onto one little dirt road for a little while, then across Jerry Snyder, Sunny Cove Farms, one of their hay fields, and then we're on estate land for the last 5 miles of the hike. Along the way, we have a couple aid stations. We have a s'more station that's in this beautiful little glen in the middle of the Phillips Creek State Forest. Then in the past, up until now, Kathy Woofter, the Vice President of Student Affairs, and her husband Bob were the custodians of the s'more station. And it came at a convenient spot in the hike because it came right before the only and really the biggest hill for the hike, so we had a chance to load up on starches and sugar before you started up that hill. And then we ended up Pollywog Holler, which there's some images of Pollywog Holler in the presentation, which is it's an eco lodge, kind of a bohemian eco lodge resort that's owned by and started by an AU alum, Bill Castle. I think he graduated maybe late 70s, early 80s. And if you haven't been there yet, I recommend going out there just to experience that. So when we planned this Horse to Holler hike, we had no idea what kind of response we would get. We were hoping for maybe 50 people. I think at one point, about 2 weeks before or a week or so before, it was close, before the registration ended, we had about 35 people signed up. So we thought, Trish and I thought, all right, that's fine. That's, if that's what we get, that's what we get. That's not a big deal. We'll have a great time with this small group. It'll be a nice hike. And then I saw Trish, I think around the day of or the day after the registration ended, and we had 109 people signed up. So it just blew up within a few days. And we had 80 people go on the hike that day, and it seemed to give us the momentum to keep going and moving forward. I'm going to back up just real quick to talk a little about the name, Wild About Alfred Committee. As a group, we got together. We weren't sure what we wanted to call ourselves. We tried out a bunch of different names, Explore Alfred, but Wild About Alfred seemed to rise to the top only because within the mission statement it was wellness within the wilderness, and now it's actually wellness within the wild. But the Wild About Wilderness seemed to stick, and then we took the word wild and made it an acronym, and that acronym stands for Wilderness, Immersion, learning, and discovery. So we came up with the wilderness, learn, and discovery part real easy. The letter I, we struggled with that one for a little while. A lot of shift F7 to hit the thesaurus to try to come up with a letter I word that would fit in with the theme of our group. Okay, so with the success of the Horse to Holler event, we then proceeded to try to put together a number of other events. Now, we did this sometimes with considerable planning, sometimes without perhaps a lot of planning. One example is we wanted to do a cycling event, where a road event with we wanted to partner with the Bike Hub. And we tried to pull all this together within a week, I think, no, 2 to 3 weeks, and it just wasn't enough time to organize it and to advertise it and to create the momentum that we needed. And as a result, we weren't able to do that one. We had, I think, all the people from the Bike Hub and Dave DeGraff were the ones that signed up for that particular bike ride, which sadly wasn't the critical mass we needed to buy the chicken barbecues and make it all happen. But other things that we've done over the years, I guess it's maybe 2 years now, we've done trips to Swain. We took a bus of folks to Swain, and we hope to do that again if we get enough interest. We do a Wild in the Winter event, which is up at the Equestrian Center for people that have never, or if you have snowshoed, cross-country skied. We have a bonfire up there, just to kind of, one more thing to celebrate winter, because it does seem like winter lasts forever around here for some people. I can tell you myself, the last 2 winters have been severely disappointing. There just hasn't been enough snow to really snowshoe and cross-country ski as much as I would like. And we've had a problem the last 2 wild about winters because they've been more wild about mud and ice than anything. So, but hopefully we'll keep going and keep trying, and hopefully one of these days we'll have a decent winter. We've also partnered, and I mentioned the Forest people a little bit earlier, and like I said, I'm going to bring Eric up here in a second. We've partnered with the Forest people on a number of events, and one of those events is Wild About Maple Syrup. Who isn't wild about maple syrup? The Forest people, they have the Sugar Shack up by Joel's house where they make the maple syrup, and the Wild About Alfred committee would partner with them. Some people think that the zombies are a little scarier in person than when they actually have their gear on. I'm not sure who that would be. I told you there's pictures of you, Kathy. I'm sorry. I didn't tell you which ones. But we partnered with the Forest people for the Wild About Maple Syrup event. We partnered with the Forest people to do some trail work in the area. But we've also partnered with a number of student groups that have taken the lead on some outdoor activities. For example, Anna Friedel and Audrey Arnold. He was by far the best zombie that we had. But to do was it your Women's Leadership Academy capstone project, Anna? Yeah, and it was called Women in the Wilderness, and it was a hike on the Pine Hill Trails with educational stations along the way. And that was very well received. We also partnered with 3 students to do the zombie apocalypse, which happens to be coming up right about now. Jonathan Ugalde, who happens to be also our graduate assistant for the Wild About Alfred committee right now. Scott DeFranco Norton, or is it Norton DeFranco? DeFranco Norton, all right, and Heather Leggett were the students that drove that event and made it happen, and we just happened to help out a little bit as consultants and maybe a little bit of help the day of the event. And then the other one that we helped out marginally with and partnered marginally with was the color run during Hot Dog Day last year. And even though we only had a little piece of that, I want to mention that only because if you were there, it helped that we had a beautiful day. It was a gorgeous day. The previous 2 hot dog days were not so nice, but this was the perfect day. In an event that usually gets around 75 people for the 5K, we had over 200 people either register or sign up or be there for the event that day. So it definitely impresses upon us that there's a need for these kinds of outdoor activities. And not only that event, but if you look at the Forest people in general, how many people did you have sign up at the block party? Right. So the interest for engaging the outdoors, getting outdoors, and moving outdoors in a recreational capacity is is definitely there. So what do we have planned for this coming semester? We have, tomorrow night, we have our first Friday night hike, which will be a trail hike just to kind of familiarize maybe new students in particular, but others with the Pine Hill trails that exist right in here in the back door. We'll also do some light trail maintenance, maybe build some ground level footbridges over some wet spots. We're going to end with a bonfire, a little pit bonfire, with the official snack of the Forest People and the Wild About Alfred Committee, the s'more. We'll have some of those at the hairpin turn. That's our first event. Our next event is the Horse to Holler hike this year, and that's scheduled for September 28th. It's a Saturday, starts at 10 a.m. I've got information, I've got a map, and I've got the poster up here if you're interested. That is going to be, it's $10 for students, $20 for non-students. Students, if you are interested, you can sign up right through your student account, right through registration, go right through your student account. Or if you'd rather it didn't go through your student account, and for non-students, it's $20. I'm sorry, $20 per month. But if you want to pay without going through the student account, you can just give the money right to Trish. She's right over here. She's downstairs. We tried using a credit card system the first year, and it tacked on like $4.50 in fees to each registration. So we decided to do away with that. Then we're going to go just old school and just cash or check. We'll be fine. We'll accept those. Other events that we have going on include, for the rest of the semester, a couple tentative ones. Every year, Rushford Lake, it's a human designed, and they fill the lake every year, and then they let the water out the middle of every October. And when they let the water out, it raises the level of the Genesee River by about 6 inches for about a week and a half. And it's a great time to do some kayaking or some floating down the Genesee. So we're going to be working to try to arrange for a boat livery to drop off and pick up kayakers for that event. There will be, and some of these, like that one in particular, there'll be a fee for that. We're hoping to do another zombie run, if maybe closer to Halloween this year. But again, that's tentative. It depends on the student leadership for that. And November 16th, we're going to do a cornucopia of outdoor type events that's going to be up at Foster Lake, and it'll include, of course, like hay rides, but wilderness first. We're hoping to do things like wilderness first aid, geocaching, cooking over fires, maybe a fly fishing clinic, things like that. And that'll be Saturday the 16th. We're also, and then the last Friday of the semester, and we usually do this for the last Friday of each semester, we have what we call the something like the Fierce Final Fun with Food Friday Night Hike. It's just an alliteration on the letter F, and then because we're so cool, we decided to call it the F-bomb hike. So we have that at the end of every semester, and that ends with actually it's really nice when we do it in the winter, because Anna had the idea last year of marking the trail with glow sticks, so you'd hike from glow stick to glow stick, and then finish, of course, with a bonfire and s'mores, of course. So those are some of the events that we've done in the past, some of the events we're looking at in the future. Other things that we're thinking about down the road might be such things as, I gotta find it here. Oh, there's the Pfeiffer Nature Center, which is located over near Portville, New York, which isn't too far from Sprague's restaurant. If you like maple syrup, it's a great combination to go to Pfeiffer Nature Center than Sprague's. And in fact, Randy Sprague's, who owns that restaurant, his daughter Stephanie was an alum of Alfred University. She was a really good volleyball player here. Other things, maybe a winter Horse to Holler, where we snowshoe from the Equestrian Center, or cross-country ski from the Equestrian Center to Polywog Holler. We'd like to do more with cycling and mountain biking. And I have a friend of mine that I camp with every year that used to run an outdoor survival school, and he'd be willing to come back to do a workshop or two on outdoor survival at some point. So there's a number of things that we're thinking about. Now, the next thing I want to do, and before I do that, I'm going to, Eric, if you want to come up, the next thing I'm going to talk about is where we'd like to see this initiative go. And but before I go there, I'm going to have Eric give a brief overview of the Forest People events that they have planned for this coming year. Go ahead.
Hi guys. As Mark said, I'm Eric, the Vice President of the Forest People. Before I get into the events, I just want to sum up kind of what we are as a club. And I think Kevin described it the best when he was president in saying that the Forest People do everything outside of four walls. It's hard to try and limit ourselves, say, oh, we go hiking and kayaking and all that, because there's just so much possibility of things to do out here that I like that description a lot better. Some of the upcoming events that we have going, the next one we have is this Saturday. We have a hike in Grimes Glen. If anyone knows about that, it's you actually hike through water, which is pretty cool. You go up and you see 3 waterfalls. The third one you actually have to use ropes to get up to. And then the following weekend we're going to Foster Lake for just a barbecue and some hiking around the lake and some kayaking, canoeing, and just that kind of stuff. We do piggyback on the Wild Committee with a lot of their events. We try and help out as much as we can. For the Horse to Holler event, we like to get some volunteers to lead the hike and kind of follow to make sure no stragglers get left behind. Some of the other major events we do in the winter, we do a winter camping trip where we go up to Allegheny State Park and we'll spend a 3-day weekend up there. We'll rent out some cabins, we'll go snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, that kind of thing. We also do some sledding at midnight. That's kind of a thing that carries over from year to year. What else do we do? Those are the main events. We don't use Phillips Creek as much as I'd like. Each year I keep trying to think of events that we could do there, but we do try and hit a lot of the local places around here. Foster Lake is definitely a place that we go to multiple times this semester, just because it is so close and it's real easy to get people up there to say there's food. But yeah, I think that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Eric. So where would we like to see this initiative go? You know, it started with some reports 20 years ago, and then it moved to the power of a mission statement and what a mission statement can do to the current state of affairs, which is an all-volunteer group of dedicated individuals, both students and professionals, to provide and plan some programming. So in addition to that 3-tiered, that 3-phased approach that I mentioned earlier, as far as going from an all-volunteer to a part-time coordinator to a full-time coordinator, there's so many opportunities, there's so many possibilities. And again, if we just go back to those magical words that were offered to us from the 1993 or 94 Recreational Task Force, start fundraising, because all we really need is money. But assuming or hoping that would happen someday, the opportunities are fairly limitless as far as leadership opportunities. I mean, we're seeing the leadership opportunities happening already with the Women in the Wilderness and with the Zombie Run. Those were student-organized and student-run, pretty much, in coordinated events. The amount of leadership skills that they learned and developed and had to utilize for those things was amazing. Providing more opportunities like that is something that we would like to see. But in addition to that, there's so many pretty amazing, to me, I guess, and I'm speaking just personally, opportunities for certifications such as a backcountry guide, a hunting and fishing guide, a mountaineering guide, rock climbing guide. You can become certified as a kayak and canoeing paddling guide or instructor. Scuba instructor or scuba certifications. We have our our Director of Public Safety, John Doherty. I think he said he's like 1 class or something away from becoming a certified scuba instructor. Wilderness First Aid and Wilderness First Responder certifications. We have Charisse Haas on campus. I'm going to get the title wrong, so I'm not even going to try, but she's in charge of safety, I believe, on campus, and she is certified to instruct in Wilderness First Aid. So the opportunity to come here to not only engage in the local resources, the natural resources that we have here, but to leave here with some certifications that might lead to either a vocation or an avocation, either one, would be something that I myself and hopefully the committee would like to realize someday. So as I mentioned before, we started with these reports. We jumped ahead to 2009. We have a mission statement. From the mission statement, we developed the task force, which comes up with the recommendations, which leads to our current state, which is a 10 to 12 very dedicated volunteers to identify and promote and plan outdoor programs. From there, we would like to see it, of course, progress into something far more structured, formalized, and intentional. So we're part of the way there. We've got some momentum. Hopefully we'll continue to get there. And with that, that is all that I have for right now. I'll be glad to make up any answers for any questions that you have at this time.